I'm at lunch, mindlessly scrolling through my social media feed when I come across a meme that somebody put together. This meme presents a challenge that many people perceive. The meme states that I'm caught somewhere between I have to pay my bills and YOLO. And I chuckle to myself a little bit, but I recognize the error in the person who made this meme's ways. What they're presenting rather is a false dichotomy. They're saying I can be happy now, as in YOLO, or I can be happy in the future, as in paying my bills. And I can't figure which one of those to do. So I'm laughing that, well, this is silly, and I'm sure people probably pick up on this and think that this is an either or choice. But then I realize as I'm making fun of this meme, I just took a job that I hate. I took an awful job. So here I am, struggling in the present, so that maybe at some point in the future I'll get some happiness. I find myself sacrificing my present joy, my present happiness, for some hopeful happiness at some point in the future. I chose paying bills in that dichotomy. Other people choose the other way. But I realized too late that you can actually be happy now and in the future. And most people overlook this. The endless pursuit of money is not the way to go, though. So what can we do about it? Find out more right after this. Hey, it's Derek Hagan. I'm a financial therapist here with another Money Health presentation where I want to talk about planning your life with happiness in mind. So when we think about happiness, I want you to think about a couple of different spectrums. Okay, there's happiness in the present, and we're going to see that on this line here, or just experiences in general. In the present or on this line, and future experiences are going to be on the vertical line. And experiences can range from positive experiences in the present all the way to negative experiences in the present. And we can have a future that's great. We can have positive future experiences and we can have negative future experiences. Now, happiness, as I'm defining it, and my definition of happiness is driven by, in part at least, by Stoic and Epicurean philosophies, positive psychology, and especially in this context, happiness expert and author Tal Ben-Shahar. He's the person who put this grid together, at least he's the person who I saw it from. So a lot of respect to him. But when we think about happiness, we're thinking about being happy today in the moment, having some fun, and having something to work for, having something that's not depriving our future selves. Okay, that's how we're trying to think about this. Now, it's helpful to define happiness, and that quadrant is where you got that sweet spot, right? So joy in the present and having some sense of purpose or meaning in your life, that's the future. And that intersection there, that's what I'm calling happiness. Now, what happiness is not, often people will think that happiness is just being fun, having fun all the time, right? I'm just having fun, I'm giddy, I'm laughing. If I'm not laughing, I'm obviously not having fun. Or never feeling sad or anger or any other kind of emotion. That's not happiness, right? You can have happiness and still feel sad sometimes or angry sometimes. You can still have happiness when you're not having fun. Okay, so it's a way bigger picture. Happiness is a lifestyle. Now, well, it's not about just having fun all the time or never feeling sad. It is about having more positive emotions than negative emotions, right? And while it's not putting your head down and avoiding your present version of happiness for some future that hopefully will be better, it is about having somewhere to aim, having direction. So let's go back to this chart. So happiness, as we talked about, was having a direction, somewhere that's going to bring us meaning in our lives, and having some fun in the present. That's happiness. Where are so many other people? Well, let's talk about that false dichotomy that I talked about. I'm stuck between paying my bills and YOLO. So paying my bills. You know these people. This is kind of how our culture was raised, and you know, really driven deep held beliefs. You have to put in the work, then you get your reward. Put in the work, get the reward. Put in the work, get the reward. Putting in the work is hard. This is why people will struggle through school, through high school, so that I can finally get in that good college. And then I do, and then I'm happy, and then it goes away. And I go, oh, great. Well, now I have to really work really hard in college so I can get into a good graduate school. And I did it. Yes, I got into the best graduate school. But then it goes away. Well, then I got to work really hard in graduate school so I can get a great job at a great firm. And I did it, and I'm happy. Ugh, but then day starts, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got to really put my head down. I got to really do good at this job so I can get promoted to partner. And I make partner, and I'm happy. Yes. Then I'm like, well, now what? Now I'm 40 years old, and I haven't started my life yet. But now I got to just put my head down, save up the money so I can finally retire and leave this rat race, and then I'll be happy. Hoping for happiness in the future at the expense of the present. That's what we're going to call the rat race. That's where so many people are stuck. That's where I was, on that stuck between paying my bills and YOLO. Now, the other half was YOLO. You only live once. Right? So this is some version of hedonism. This isn't exactly hedonism, but some version of hedonism where I'm only focusing on the present, ignoring the future. This is the quadrant where you hear all those country music songs about live like you're dying. You can't live like you're dying because there's a future that needs to happen. So these are people who will spend all their money. They refuse to save for the future. They don't even think about what the repercussions of their current actions are going to be. It's not always about money. They could eat junk food, which are going to make them unhealthy in the future, take years off their life. They engage in risky behaviors. They smoke cigarettes. They drink too much. They have unhealthy diets. They don't exercise because that feels good in the moment. It gives me pleasure in the moment, but I'm ignoring the future. So I'm giving myself a negative future, but I'm having fun in the present. So that's going to be that version of hedonism. And now there are people for whom maybe they've tried one or both of these, and they've just kind of given up. They're like, well, I tried this, that didn't work. So then I tried this, that didn't work. So then I fall into some version of nihilism. Again, not the perfect definition, but nihilism says, why try? Why even try? This isn't really meant for me. I'm not meant to be happy. I tried it. I wasn't happy in the moment. I'm not happy going to work and trying to get some future. Maybe I've even gotten those goals and the happiness didn't come. So now, like, I don't get it. What's the point? There is no point. So that's nihilism. This is the quadrant that's really hard to get out of. So you really, really don't want to find yourself there. And as we talked about, happiness is that balance between present and future. So to kind of put some quotes to this, a common journey, tell me if this sounds familiar. You've got that person that says, I'll be happy when I finally get this and when I finally get that. And this is kind of the curse of success. If you have those goals and you're working towards those goals and it keeps you going and you're like, hey, I'm going to be happy when I get that goal, and that's fine. That might be a good motivator. But then when you hit those goals and the happiness isn't there, like, well, what's going on? And then you might even realize, well, I haven't even been authentic. These haven't even been my goals to pursue. I've just been doing what I thought I was supposed to do. Then you enter into the hedonism quadrant from the rat race quadrant. And this, we might call this a midlife crisis. This is like, I've been living the wrong life. It's time for me to live my life. So now I'm going to start having fun now. I'm going to buy a bunch of toys. I'm going to start traveling. I'm going to do a bunch of different things. Have a lot of fun. And I don't even care. I'm going to fly off the handle. Right? This is your midlife crisis person. Because they tried this quadrant. It didn't work. Now, at least people who haven't yet hit those goals, they can still be deceived into thinking that I'll eventually be happy. Now, I still think that's a myth. But it's the people who achieved those goals and didn't find the happiness, they fall into the hedonism quadrant. They fall into that midlife crisis. And then they realize, well, this life is exhausting too. I don't like having only fun in the present, because I wake up tomorrow or a week from now or a year from now and I realize I've dinked myself. I've screwed myself over. I don't like this lifestyle. And I tried this and I tried this, and now what? So then I fall into a depression. I fall into melancholy sadness, existential crisis here. What is the point of it all? What is the actual point of it all? Okay, that journey, if that doesn't describe you, you may know somebody like that, or you've certainly seen TV shows or movies that have that progression in it. And it's because people don't really realize without inspection, without, intuitively, we don't think that this quadrant exists. Okay. So just to beat the dead horse here, the some people will put too much emphasis on the future and not enough emphasis on the present. They deprive their present selves. Okay. Like Ebenezer Scrooge, right? There are some people who put too much emphasis on the present and they don't plan for the future. This is your slacker. Then there are people who don't put any emphasis on the present or the future because they're stuck in the past. And if you can get out of these three zones and you can balance the present and the future, you can balance having joy today with finding meaning and purpose in the future, then that's where you're going to find your happiness. And gratitude and mindfulness are great ways to add to the happiness in your life. Now, mindfulness is the opposite of mindlessness. This is about being very clear about what your experience is. This is about paying deliberate attention to what is happening in the present moment without judgment, without interpreting, without trying to change it, without trying to wish it was different. And the more mindful you are, the more accepting you will be of the moment. And the more acceptance you have, the more you can, believe that right now this is how it is. Now you can start to be grateful for all the things that you have and all the things that you have going well for you. Focusing on what's going well instead of what you don't have, instead of focusing on the deprivation. And the more you accept and the more gratitude you have, the less likely you are to take your life for granted. So most people don't realize what they've got until it's gone because they've taken it for granted. They just assume I am entitled to this. And then they lose that job, or they lose that relationship, or somebody close to them dies, or they lose their abilities because they were taking it for granted. Mindfulness helps increase that acceptance. Acceptance is a gateway into gratitude, and gratitude prevents you from taking your life for granted. So try to figure out what direction you want to go. What's your North Star? Where's your compass? What's your beacon? Find out what matters to you and focus on those things. And then get really clear about the things that you can do about it and ignore those things that you can't. Keep your focus on that intersection of things that matter to you and things you can control. You only have one life. Live intentionally.